I was driving yesterday and I happened upon a story on NPR for about a half of a millisecond. The radio was fading in and out, and basically what was said, as I recall, is that there was recently a cow found 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days, whatever, after an accident in an area somewhere. Try Googling that, right? Everybody there's one of the first things, if you try to Google anything like that, the word cow and accident, it's going to tell you who's liable, for the accident. And then, of course, if you click on news, it's just going to be voluminous mentions of cows and wrecks, accidents. So I'm going to get a little bit more pointed on it right now. The story of it, just hearing that brief little thing that I heard. I just heard the blurb, the headline. It's like, hey, there was a cow found, and 3 days after this accident near a bridge, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, well, let me put a little bit more context in. Recently, I've been listening to things like transhumanism, like singularity, augmented humanity, game theory, specifically the whole transhumanism aspect. And basically what all that's implying is, it's humans that have some kind of augmented or added to reality. In other words, we're basically cyborgs. Right now we are. Every one of us are carrying around these mobile devices, these computers that, by the way, have more power than the folks that landed on the moon. And by the way, I do believe that we landed on the moon now. I was feeling some challenges for a few weeks, but I looked at both sides of the story, and I feel that we did land on the moon. Anyway, so we're cyborgs with computers, and by just a few years from now, we're going to be, if things don't change, if we don't experience some kind of a huge catastrophe, we're going to start really altering ourselves. The technology's there, the computers are there. It's impossible to even know anything these days without Googling it, like I did with the cow story. First thing, I Googled it, searched for it, since I had a chance and wasn't driving. But anyway, so all of the stuff piles up, okay? You got we're turning to cyborgs. Most of us are hardly ever outside. We couldn't survive 3 days out in the wilderness. Most of us couldn't. You see the happenstance chance every once in a while of a person that spends time, they get lost out in the woods or whatever, they're out there a couple of days. But most of the time, we die when we get lost. There's a guy that spent his whole life, he's studying the phenomenon of people getting lost out in the woods. David Paladines, or you can look him up. But anyway, he gets kind of esoteric with it. He's talking about Bigfoot and UFOs, and sometimes he never really says it, but he lets other people imply it. But what about us? What's going on with humans, man? We're turning to these cyborgs. We're wanting to live to be 160 years old, and if we're billionaires. But us regular people, non-billionaires, what are we? What are we doing to ourselves by being plugged into these computers all the time? I'm almost 50. I count along with the computer thing, and I'm kind of like the chicken on the stove, or the frog in the hot water that he didn't get put into, but just kind of sit in there when it was cold and let it warm up. And he doesn't even know he's hot until he's cooked. And I think that's what's happening to us right now. Specifically, a lot of us, because that's all we do is that we have to have these things we think. I can't even remember how in the world we traveled around, back in the days of, in high school and in college in the 80s and 90s and on, I never did really use a cell phone until around 2000. I had one in the 90s, 97, 98, 99. But it was something that was, a lot of times it was just in my car. And, it was a car phone. I had a phone for the house, and I had a cell phone there as well. It was a different reality back then. It wasn't like, you were using it to, look up information, unless you consider calling people to get information. So it's just kind of weird, we're becoming something new, this transhumanism, not transsexual. I'm not calling you a transsexual. I'm saying you're transforming, or you went through some kind of a transformational process that moved you beyond human. More human than human. Well, anyway, back to the cow. How long could we survive out there? How long could you survive out there? Could you eat? A cow's pretty mobile. It's kind of like a pig. I remember reading about Hernando de Soto coming into the United States, in the southern part of the United States. Probably, if you live in South Arkansas, more than likely, Hernando de Soto's group, at least, if not him, traveled through close to where you're at. And the fascinating thing to learn about that was that they had pigs with them, which brought in lots of diseases that killed lots of Native Americans. But pigs and cows, pigs specifically, are really great to have around. They're just like a meal on wheels, man. They can run around and they can feed themselves. They don't require a lot of attention. And when you need it, eat it. Kind of like the old saying I remember from when I was a kid. Sell your cows, eat your pigs. Well, apparently we may need to keep those cows around too. I don't know. They may know something that we don't know. It's transhumans. Anyway, there you go. Transhuman. What about you? Could you survive in the woods for a few days? Could you live on your own? You can't root around like pigs. You can't eat grass like cows. What you gonna do? Well, I don't know. I'd probably starve to death and die. Killed by a mountain lion and a snake and freeze to death and have a heart attack. Maybe. Who knows? Over and out. Hump day. Have fun. Be safe.